Hi friends, so today we're going to talk about writing equations in slope-intercept form. So we've already graphed equations in slope-intercept form, so I just wanted to talk about how to write them now. So this is chapter 4.1. We're going to be going back and forth between chapter 3 and chapter 4. So we're kind of combining the two chapters into one big chapter. So as a reminder, if I am writing something in slope-intercept form, it's going to look like this. So y equals mx plus b. And in this equation, my m value here, this is my slope. And my b value here, this is my y-intercept. I'm going to abbreviate it as y-int, but just know that this is where my function were to cross the y-axis. So for example, on this one, my y-intercept is going to be right here because this is where it's crossing my y-axis. All right, so now if we're given slope and a y-intercept, then we can just plug these values into our formula, y equals mx plus b, and that will give us the equation of the line. So let's identify our m value and our b value. So m here, this is our slope, and so our slope here is -3, so m equals -3. Our b value, this is our y-intercept, and here we have y-intercept of y-intercept of 1/2. So our b value is 1/2. So now let's plug that into our formula. We'll have y equals m, which is -3, so -3x plus our b, which is 1/2. All right, so now go ahead and pause the video and try the next one on your own. So hopefully you pause the video and you got that m equals 0 and b equals -2. So then if you were to plug this in, you would have gotten y equals 0x plus -2. So if you're here, awesome. And we can simplify this a little bit further because I know that if I have 0x, that means that I have 0 x's. So I don't really have an x here. Let me refocus a little bit here. And if I am adding a negative number, I'm really just subtracting. So I can simplify this further to be y equals -2. I'm not writing my x anymore because I don't have any x's. If I have 0x, I don't have any x's. So this can just simplify to y equals -2. All right, so let's move on. We can write equations using graphs as well. So then really quick before we do that, I know already that we're going to have to find a slope and our y-intercept. And if we're just given 2 points, we can find our slope. And so this equation again is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So then now if we're looking at a graph, how do I know which one is x1? How do I know which one is x2? So it's kind of similar to the way we read normally. So we read from left to right. So then now if I'm looking at a graph, I'm looking at this graph from left to right. So I'm starting at this point, ending at this point. So this is my x1 and my y1. And then this would be my x2 and my y2. So first point, second point. All right. So now let's plug that into our equation because we're going to find our m value first. So we'll have m equals y2, which is 3, minus y1, which is -3, all over x2, which is 4, minus x1, which is 0. All right, let's go ahead and simplify this. If I have 3 minus a -3, I know that anytime I'm subtracting a negative, I'm really just adding. So I'm going to change those with plus signs. So 3 plus 3 gives me 6, and then 4 minus 0 just gives me 4. All right, so then now remembering from when we talked about fractions, the numerator and denominator, these are both even. So I can simplify this further to be 3 halves because I'm going to divide both by 2. All right, so then now I want to find my b value. And my b value again is my y-intercept. And my y-intercept, this is just where my function crosses my y-axis. So this axis right here, anywhere this function touches it is my y-intercept. So it touches at this point here, which is 0, -3. So my b value is just going to be this y value, which is -3. Another way that we can think about this is anywhere our x value is 0 and we have a y value, then that is where our y-intercept is. So our b value here is -3. So then now I'm not quite done because I need to plug this into y equals mx plus b. So I have y equals m, which is 3/2. So 3/2 x plus our b value, which is -3. Remember, these parentheses around that -3, they don't really do anything except remind me that that 3 is negative. So I know that I need to keep that negative with that 3. Also, I know that anytime I'm adding a negative, I can just simplify this further to be y equals 3/2 x, because I'm not changing that. But if I'm adding a negative, I'm really just subtracting. So I can have 3/2 x minus 3. And that is my equation. All right, go ahead and pause the video again. See what you come up with for part B. All right, so hopefully you pause the video and you got that m equals -1 minus 2 over 4 minus 0. So then simplified m equals -3 over 4. If this part is confusing, something that would be good to know is since we are always going from left to right, this is our first point, this is our second point. So this is x1, y1, and this is x2, y2. So you should get m equals -3/4. All right, so then now let's find our b value. Hopefully you got b equals 2. And again, remember this is where our x is 0. So x is 0 right here, and our y value is 2. So our b value would just be that y value. So it's the same thing. So b equals 2. Keep in mind, if you want to just kind of look at the graph and notice that it hits the graph at y equals 2, that's another way to think about it. So just write b equals 2. Okay, so we're not quite done. So hopefully you wrote this in an equation as well. So you should get y equals -3/4 x plus 2. I'm kind of running out of room here. So this is what you should end up with. Y equals -3/4 x plus 2. All right, so let's just double check our work and see if these answers make sense. Here we have a positive slope and here we have a negative slope. And if we were to look at our graphs, we know that since we're going from left to right on our graph, we're increasing, we're going up in a positive direction. So we should have a positive slope. If we were to look at part B, we're going from this point to this point. So we're going down. So we're going further negative. So then because we're going down, we should have a negative slope. So since our answers make sense, let's move on to using points to write equations. All right, so now I'm given these 2 points. I can use the same formula up here, just like we did right here, to find our m. So I have m equals my y2, which is -1, minus my y1, which is 5, and then x2, which is 0, minus -3, x1. Okay, let's go ahead and simplify that. -1 minus 5 is -6. 0 minus -3 is 0 plus 3. So I get -6 over 3. then this can be simplified just to -2 because I know that -6 divided by 3 is -2. All right, so then let's talk about our b value. Our b value is wherever x equals 0. So if we were to look right here, we have x equals 0 and y equals -1. So b is -1. So we have our b and we have our m. So let's put that into our equation. Y equals -2x minus 1. All right, go ahead and pause the video again. Try the next one on your own. Hopefully you paused the video and you got m equals 0. And your b, you're looking right here, so you should get b equals -5. Then when you put this into your equation, you should get y equals 0x minus 5. And again, just like we said earlier, 0x means I don't have an x, so y equals -5. All right, let's move on to our last section. So we have write a linear function f with the values f of 0 equals 10 and f of 6 equals 34. So this is just a different notation that we're not used to yet, so that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it. So if we have this right here, this means f of 0 equals 10. So that's how that reads, f of 0 equals 10. So that we know 0 is our input value into the function and 10 is the output. So this can just be written as a point as well. So for step 1, I'm just going to write this as a point. So my input is 0, so x is 0, and my output, or my y, is just 10. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do that with the next one. Oops. So we know that f of 6 equals 34. My input is 6, x is 6, and my y is my output, which is 34. So now I just have those 2 points. So now I'm going to find the slope between those 2 points. Okay, so that will give me m equals my y2, which is 34, minus y1, which is 10, over x2, which is 6, minus x1, which is 0. So you should end up with m equals 4, all the way simplified. And remember, for these, you can use a calculator. Calculators are still fair game. So then now the only thing left that we have to do is find our b value. So we know that m equals 4, and b, this is wherever x equals 0. So x equals 0 right here. So x is 0, y is 10, so b is 10. Now I'm going to put that into our equation. So we should get y equals m, so 4x plus b, which is 10. So y equals 4x plus 10. All right, so I know I went a little bit fast on this video. I'm only allowed 15 minutes per video. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me or Miss Skillman or Mr. Bishop. We all have office hours throughout the week. And hopefully this video helped for your next activity. And please, please, please let us know if you have any questions.